Welcome to the deep dive. So today, we're really getting into something quite raw, actually. An unfiltered look at a huge cultural shift.
Yeah, it's been making waves in the independent music world.
Exactly. Specifically, we're diving deep into the, well, frankly, pretty dramatic transformation of Discover U Radio itself. A really big change, driven by its founder, Will Stenner.
And we're working directly from your material here, Will's own very candid announcements and his internal research notes.
That's right. We're aiming to pull out the key insights for you. Okay, let's unpack this. Because this, it's not just some simple business story.
No, not at all.
It's really like a cultural mirror, isn't it? Reflecting some, well, genuinely uncomfortable truths about creativity, about what artists expect.
And the harsh realities, really. The economics of trying to make art sustainable today.
Absolutely. And I have to say, just reading Will's account, it's so unvarnished, so candid. You can't help but feel this shared sense of disappointment, you know, a real concern for what he saw.
I agree. It really gives you pause.
It does.
What we're exploring here, it goes way beyond just one platform changing direction. Will Stenner's announcements, his notes, they form the core of our deep dive, and they are just, well, brutally honest, almost uncomfortably so sometimes.
Yeah.
But it gives this perspective that reflects these broader and, yeah, sometimes troubling trends, not just music, but creative industries generally.
Right, the way artists behave, the economics.
Exactly, how it's all evolving. What's fascinating here is how one person's experience dealing with literally thousands of artists.
Thousands? That number is staggering.
It is, and it paints such a vivid and pretty disheartening picture of a big slice of the creative world. My first reaction, honestly, just like yours, profound disappointment and real concern about the stuff Will's describing.
Feels like a wake-up call.
It really does.
So our mission for you today, it's pretty clear. We want to get to the why. Why this huge shift?
The root causes.
Yeah. We're going to explore these uncomfortable, maybe even painful truths Will laid out so bravely. And more importantly, figure out what it all means.
For artists, for platforms trying to support them.
And really for the future of creative expression itself in this digital age.
Our goal, for you listening, is to give you those crucial insights, those aha moments.
Tools for critical thinking, you know, without it feeling overwhelming.
Right, because this isn't just about Discover U Radio. It's about what it tells us about our culture, creativity, and maybe even ourselves.
And what a pivot it's been. I mean, Will Stenner, he's not exactly known for holding back, is he?
Not at all. Very direct.
He kicked off his announcement with, well, it was a shockwave for a lot of people. He just pulled the plug, stated it flat out. The radio is done. The app is done. Artist submissions, also done.
Just like that. Boom.
Yeah, exactly. Not a slow fade out. Just an abrupt, decisive end to that whole era for Discover U Radio's original idea, right?
Yeah.
That platform built on letting artists submit their work.
That democratic ideal, yeah.
There's such a finality to it. It really marked a complete dismantling of what it used to be. Will even used this analogy with his typical, wry humor. He compared it to a Pokemon that finally got tired of being in the same boring battle.
Huh, okay, that's kind of funny.
It is. It gives a little levity, but, it doesn't really take away from how serious this change is, especially for all those indie artists who saw the platform as a way to get heard.
Yeah, that's a door closing for them.
It's a fundamental teardown, really. A total rethink of the whole purpose.
That Pokemon analogy, though, it sounds light, but it really captures that feeling of exhaustion, doesn't it? That sense of stagnation that often comes before these huge changes.
Absolutely.
But like Will explained, this wasn't just about ending something. It's an evolution.
Right. He was clear. Not dying, evolving.
Exactly. Reshaping its identity, its mission, the new direction. He spelled it out. 100% focused on Robert Simmons and Rita Fox hosting discussions.
That's us.
Yep. And the content for discussions is shifting too. Big time. We're now diving deep into, and I'm quoting again, current events and the massive cultural shifts happening while everyone's busy arguing about pineapple on pizza.
Yeah. Classic Will.
But it signals a very deliberate move, doesn't it? Away from being this broad, open platform for anyone.
Yeah, for emerging musicians.
Towards becoming this highly curated, more intellectually driven thing. focused on analysis, insight.
And then there's the service model change. That's huge, too.
Oh, yeah, totally different.
Yeah.
We'll introduce this new model where you and I will deep dive into your brand for a $50 production cost.
$50. Now, that might not sound like a fortune, but compared to free submissions,
It's night and day.
it completely redefines the relationship, doesn't it? What does that $50 really signal, do you think?
Well, it's a statement, isn't it? It suggests the old way, maybe noble in theory, just wasn't sustainable. Or maybe not even effective enough.
It acts like a filter, almost. Requires
Wow.
some basic level of seriousness.
Exactly. It marks this shift from, quantity over quality, open access for everyone, to something focused, value-driven, intellectually engaging. It's a major strategic rethink.
Which leads us straight into the unavoidable why.
The core reason.
Yeah, what he called plot twists. And this is where it gets, well, pretty pointed. And probably painful for some people to hear.
He didn't sugarcoat it.
Not at all. He was crystal clear. Why the change? Because I've got an opportunity to create online courses that actually makes financial sense. Something that surpasses the thousands upon thousands of dollars I've poured into supporting artists over the years.
Ow. Just lays it bare.
Let that sink in. Thousands upon thousands of dollars invested. And the implication is with basically zero return.
It just hammers home how financially unsustainable that old model was. Built on passion, sure, but no real economic engine.
And then he adds that wry little comment, almost like a punchline born from disappointment.
Which one?
Turns out, teaching people stuff is more profitable than buying iTunes songs. Who knew? Is there?
Oof. Yeah. That really hits home, doesn't it? That feeling when genuine support, real passion, significant personal investment, it just doesn't pay the bills.
It's idealism hitting the wall of economic reality hard.
And that specific point, it plugs right into these bigger economic truths, not just in music, but across the arts.
Yeah.
Will's experience, it perfectly illustrates what we see as the failure of charity-based models in the creative economy.
Makes sense. You can't just run on goodwill forever.
Exactly. No matter how passionate the founder, a platform can't just be a perpetual patron. When it's set up to freely support artists without its own sustainable income, well, it eventually becomes what Will later called, very bluntly, a charity for musical parasites.
Ouch. Strong words.
Very strong.
Yeah.
But it points to the dynamic it creates, right? Dependency, not partnership. It fosters a sense of entitlement, maybe, and it raises that tricky question. Platform responsibility versus artist accountability. How long should a business pour in resources if the people benefiting aren't helping keep it afloat? Or maybe aren't even, meeting basic professional standards.
It's a tough balance.
It is. And so this pivot, it's not just a business move. It's a major cultural shift indicator. It forces us to rethink how we value art, how we fund it, how we consume it in this digital world.
Right.
It underscores that for art support to actually last, to be more than just a nice gesture, it has to be built on sustainability, not just altruism.
Otherwise, even the best intentions, like Discover You Radio's original mission.
They just crumble under the weight of finances and maybe, as Will describes, just sheer human disappointment.
So, okay, the financial side is clear. Unsustainable. But then Will shifts gears, right? He moves from the platform's economics to what he called his truth bombs.
Yeah, focusing squarely on artist behavior.
And this, for me, is where it really cuts deep into the culture of creativity today. He did not hold back at all. He said, after dealing with 7,000, 10,000 artists.
7 to 10,000?
I know. He even jokes, yes, I counted. Okay, I estimated, but it feels like I counted. But still, that volume, it gives his next statement so much weight.
What'd you say?
About 80% of y'all act so damn entitled it makes Karen at Starbucks look humble.
80%. That's wild.
It's staggering, isn't it?
Yeah.
It suggests this isn't just a few bad apples. He sees it as a widespread systemic issue in the indie artist community he dealt with.
And what kind of entitlement?
He said they were often obsessed with being famous instead of being career-minded.
Ah, okay. That's a key distinction.
Totally. It highlights this fundamental misalignment, he thinks. Chasing fame, likes, viral moments, instead of focusing on the craft, the long game, the actual work of building a sustainable career.
That feels like something you see beyond just music, doesn't it? That focus on superficial recognition.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder how much it's holding back real artistic growth everywhere.
It really does. And that phrase, obsessed with being famous instead of being career-minded, that's sharp. It's easy to just nod along with Will's frustration, especially with that 80% figure.
Yeah, it's a gut reaction.
But playing devil's advocate for a second, in today's world, maybe the perception of fame, or at least visibility, feels like the only way to build any career in the arts for some people.
That's a fair point. The landscape has changed.
So the challenge becomes, how do you navigate that without just chasing likes for likes' sake? How do you focus on the art, the real work?
Good question.
And digging into Will's notes, he really detailed how this entitlement showed up. One big thing was what we're calling the uniqueness paradox.
Okay, what's that?
He said the most annoying thing artists would say was, we are different, and this is music you've never heard before.
Ah, the we're totally unique claim.
Exactly. And then Will adds with his usual bluntness, narrator voice, it was not different. It was, in fact, very much like music he had heard before.
Okay.
But it's not just him being cynical. It points to this pattern, claiming to be unique while actually producing stuff that sounds, well, derivative.
Heard it all before.
Yeah. And often it's a rejection of the fundamentals, right? What Will calls the 3 chords and a good hook. Instead, they aim for this perceived innovation that often lacks real substance.
Right.
He even gives advice, almost pleading. Just focus on 3 chords and a good hook and say, I got 3 chords and a good hook. That grabs attention.
So focus on solid craft, not just the idea of being different.
Precisely. It highlights this disconnect where artists seem to value claiming uniqueness more than actually achieving it through hard work and real creativity. Like the label matters more than the content.
It's like saying you're a gourmet chef when you can't boil water.
Exactly. True innovation usually builds on mastering the basics first. Without that, different often just means messy or unfocused.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what else did his truth bombs reveal?
Another big one was what we've called the narcissistic focus. He issued this challenge, almost a dare. Try writing one song without the words I and me in it. I dare you. It's harder than finding a parking spot at Walmart on Black Friday.
Wow. Okay, that's pointed.
Isn't it? It's not just witty. It suggests this deep-seated self-centeredness, a narcissistic focus shown by the inability to write songs without I and me.
And the implication is?
That it leads to this broader loss of universal themes and shared human experience. If every song is just about me, it struggles to connect with people on common ground.
It becomes very insular.
Totally. And you have to wonder how much social media fuels this, right?
Okay.
All the personal branding, the curated my life feeds.
It definitely seems to amplify the self-focus.
Making it maybe harder for artists to look beyond their own bubble, this constant self-reference, this inability to step outside the ego, it really does block connection.
It does. Art's supposed to build bridges, right? Not just echo chambers.
Exactly. If everyone's just talking about themselves, where's the common ground? Where are those universal stories?
Which makes Will's next points even more potent as he really zooms in on one particular genre.
Right.
And this next part. This is where Will Stenner's critique gets really intense. The disappointment, the frustration, it's palpable. He focuses specifically on rap and hip-hop.
And his language is strong.
Extremely strong. It reflects this deep exasperation seemingly built up over years. He says, and this is a direct quote, 90% of rap hip-hop artists I've dealt with are straight-up fiction writers who miss their calling.
Wow. It's direct.
Incredibly direct. He clearly saw a pattern that deeply troubled him. He talks about manufactured struggle narratives for content creation.
Okay, so questioning the authenticity.
Yeah, he challenges them.
Yes.
Your rap's about making it because of life struggles, while depending on Dr. Seuss rhyming over no talent 808 tracks. It's a critique of the art and the story behind it. But then he describes something even more disturbing. Meanwhile, half of you are out here living like you're in Grand Theft Auto just to have content for your struggle stories.
Whoa, okay, hold on. That's a heavy accusation.
It is. It points to this idea he observed. The commodification of struggle narratives.
Yeah.
Not just exaggerating, but actively creating problematic, maybe even criminal situations just to get material for a song.
That's deeply cynical, if true.
This specific point connects to something incredibly personal, something deeply painful for Will that really explains the depth of his feelings about glorifying criminal activity.
Okay.
I need to share something here. It puts Will's perspective, especially on this topic, into a truly heartbreaking, visceral context. It's intensely personal, but it sheds so much light on his reaction.
Please, go ahead.
Will Stenner. He's an actual victim of the exact kind of violence that some artists, as he sees it, fabricate or even act out for content.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Years ago, he was working at a Denny's, just trying to earn a living. And during a robbery there, he had a gun shoved right against his forehead. Forced face down on the dirty floor, robbers going through his pockets. And while he's down there, terrified, helpless, he could hear them robbing everyone else, patrons. But the worst part, the part that clearly traumatized him, they went up to a young couple with a little baby, demanded their car keys.
With a baby then.
With a baby. The couple refused, obviously terrified, and these scum, as Will describes them, they put the gun to the baby's head and said, which is more important to you, your keys or your kid's life?
That's... I have no words. That's horrific.
It's unimaginable terror, profound trauma. And that experience, that horrific life-altering event, is precisely why Will feels such visceral disgust, such burning frustration towards art that, in his view, casually glorifies or encourages these kinds of acts.
Of course. Absolutely. How could he not?
For him, it's not abstract. It's not just lyrics. It's real pain, real fear, real trauma that he endured, that he saw inflicted on others. It's a constant, painful reminder that what some might call content or street cred is, for actual victims, the absolute worst moment of their lives, leaving scars that never go away.
Thank you for sharing that. Hearing that, it just casts Will's words in a completely different, incredibly empathetic light. That kind of trauma, the gun to the baby's head, it's sickening. It's absolutely 100% understandable why he would react with such anger, such disgust, when he sees art that seems to make light of or even celebrate the very thing that caused him and others such profound, lasting harm.
Right.
His perspective, born from that direct, horrifying experience, it completely reframes his views on criminal activity justified as artistic authenticity. It highlights this massive, almost unbridgeable gap between some performance of struggle and the devastating reality of violence. His pain makes his critique more than just an opinion. It's a deeply felt moral objection.
Exactly.
And beyond that specific, incredibly disturbing point, Will also voiced huge frustration with what he saw as sheer dishonesty and persistent begging for exceptions.
Yeah, the radio-friendly issue.
Right. He noted, and you can just feel his exasperation, not to mention the most straight-up liars when it comes to song submissions and stating that their music is radio-friendly when it obviously isn't. You are always the ones who beg and beg and beg for exceptions.
So just ignoring rules and then pleading for special treatment.
Exactly. It's not just about making a mistake. It's this ingrained belief that the rules don't apply or that they can just harass their way into getting what they want.
Which led to his very harsh assessment.
Yeah, his language. Most annoying genre out there, by far. You all have the same uneducated mentality. It's tough language. But again, understanding the sheer volume, thousands of interactions, seeing this pattern repeat, it conveys the depth of his frustration. We're not endorsing the phrasing, obviously, but we acknowledge the intense exasperation behind it. It signals a profound lack of respect he felt he was shown.
And then there's the equipment issue, too.
Right. The questionable equipment acquisition. Will's sarcastic remark. And don't get me started on the equipment that probably has more frequent flyer miles than a flight attendant. Most likely stolen, so you can rap about how you steal your equipment.
So implying theft is sometimes part of the artistic narrative itself.
That's the implication, that the act of getting gear illegally becomes part of the persona, part of the content. Just another example, maybe, of blurring lines between reality and performance, right and wrong, when authenticity or content creation trumps basic ethics.
Especially galling, given his personal history with robbery.
Precisely. And connecting this back to the bigger picture, looking at our broader cultural analysis, Will's specific points about the rap and hip-hop community he encountered really hammer home several critical themes. First, that whole idea of criminal activity justified as artistic authenticity.
Which his Denny's story makes so stark.
Incredibly stark. Heartbreakingly stark. It forces us, as listeners, as society, to confront the ethics when real violence, real crime things that cause immense suffering and trauma are not just depicted, but sometimes glorified or used for cred. It blurs lines between genuine experience, which is valid art, and cynical performance. Especially when compared to Will's actual trauma, it gives his critique undeniable moral weight. Second, his critique about artists trying to create your own genre. Remember his advice. Stop trying to create your own genre. Stick to the basics, Picasso.
Yeah, more genres than Baskin-Robbins flavors.
Right. It ties directly to this idea of genre proliferation as avoidance of mastering existing categories. It's not anti-innovation. It's highlighting a perceived lack of fundamental craft. Instead of mastering the basics of existing forms, some artists seem to think declaring a new genre is a shortcut.
Like trying to invent calculus before learning arithmetic.
Perfect analogy. It leads to this fragmented landscape of half-baked ideas instead of true mastery and meaningful evolution within established traditions.
So it's a lot.
It is a lot to digest. But pulling back, Will's rap revelation, seen through this wider lens, it raises these really crucial questions about the moral landscape in parts of the music industry.
Where does responsibility lie?
Exactly. When does expression cross a line? What's the cultural impact? And it forces us to look at the difference between real struggle art and cynical commodification, especially when real victims, like Will, are impacted. It really calls on us, the audience, to think about what we're consuming and implicitly endorsing.
Okay, so stepping back a bit from Will's specific and clearly deeply felt frustrations with the indie music scene, you can really see how his observations, even though aimed at certain groups, they echo these much broader cultural themes we see everywhere in creative fields today.
Definitely. Our analysis pulled out several key discussion points that help widen that lens.
And one that really jumps out from his experiences is this idea of a participation trophy culture in creative fields.
Right. It's not just for kids' soccer anymore.
Exactly. It's about how that attitude, expecting praise just for showing up, plays out in artistic communities. Will's encounter with that 80% entitlement epidemic really feels like evidence of the death of apprenticeship and skill development. Think about the traditional path for artists.
Years of practice, learning the craft.
Right. Painters, musicians, writers. It took dedication, often under a mentor, lots of mistakes, paying your dues, slowly building skill, discipline, voice.
But now
there's often this expectation of instant gratification versus long-term craft mastery. People expect recognition, success, support just for saying they're an artist or putting something out quickly, maybe without that foundational work.
like wanting the applause without the rehearsal.
Exactly. And that attitude, as Will saw firsthand, it can just totally stunt real growth. It keeps artists stuck because they skip the essential, often hard steps needed for real excellence. What happens when everyone's told they're special, that passion alone is enough without the discipline?
Well, you get exactly what Will described, right? A flood of mediocrity, maybe. A devaluation of real skill. And ultimately an unsustainable creative ecosystem. It just can't hold up. And connecting this to the bigger picture, these individual points really do weave together into these larger cultural themes that need our attention. Let's look again at authenticity versus manufactured drama.
Okay.
Will's direct, painful experience with artists seemingly faking struggle, especially in rap hip-hop, highlights this commodification of struggle narratives. Hardship becomes a product to sell.
Right.
And it makes you ask, when keeping it real becomes performative, just an act, what's the real value? And crucially, tying back to Will's trauma at Denny's, what are the ethics? How ethical is it to exploit or even create negativity or crime just for content?
Especially when real people suffer from those acts.
Precisely. Will's story is a chilling reminder of the real impact. This isn't just about creative freedom. It's about moral responsibility and the cultural ripple effects. It demands that we, the audience, question the stories we're told.
Definitely.
Then there's the economic sustainability and art support. Will's pivot is Exhibit A for the failure of charity-based creative economy models.
Pouring in thousands with no return.
Yeah. It's just not viable long-term. It actually reinforces the idea that maybe market forces act as quality control mechanisms. When art has to find some economic footing, even small, it often demands higher quality or relevance or connection.
So Will stopping the charity for musical parasites.
It underscores that necessary shift away from just giving things away towards models where artists contribute something like the $50 fee or the platform finds other real revenue streams. It's tough, but for platforms to truly support artists long-term, they need to be financially sound first. Otherwise, it's always temporary help.
Makes sense. It has to work as a system.
And finally, that theme of narcissism in modern creative expression. Will's challenge about writing without I or me, it points right at this me-centric approach to art creation.
Leading to.
Often a loss of universal themes and shared human experience. Art gets stuck in the individual story, making it harder for others to connect collectively. And we have to consider social media's profound role in amplifying self-focus.
The personal brand dominates.
Right. Platforms built on self-promotion can push artists, maybe unintentionally, to focus more on their image than on the broader impact or connection of their work, which raises a big question for you listening.
Yeah.
As a consumer, maybe a creator, how does this focus on the individual affect the art you consume? And what responsibility do we all have in valuing art that looks beyond the self? Art that connects us, builds bridges, not just echoes.
It's a mirror, like you said, reflecting not just artists, but the culture we're all part of. Hashtag the great filtering in the mirror moment. Will Stenner's personal journey through all this, it ends his announcement on this really powerful, almost cathartic note.
Yeah, you feel the relief.
Totally. He said, "A massive weight has lifted off my shoulders after making that tough call to be done running a charity for musical parasites."
Yeah.
It wasn't just business, it was personal liberation from this burden he felt, largely from those frustrating behaviors he described. And then he adds this bit, maybe defiant, maybe just self-aware. The real ones know who they are. They're probably laughing at this email right now.
Acknowledging the professional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Recognizing that not everyone fits that entitled mold, but that a big chunk, in his view, were either taking advantage or just not meeting basic standards. He respects the ones who got it.
Right.
And this whole shift, this really difficult pivot, it represents what our analysis calls the great filtering.
Like a natural selection for the creative economy.
Yeah, think of it like that. An ecosystem under pressure. Platforms that maybe enabled mediocrity or just weren't financially stable. They're facing extinction pressure now. It sounds brutal, but maybe it's necessary.
A cleansing, perhaps.
Could be. And conversely, quality-focused alternatives, like the new discussions format here, aiming for curated value, they might gain an edge.
Makes sense.
And this filtering forces artists to adapt too, right? They have to shift from expecting free handouts, the charity model, to a merit-based system, where success comes from real craft, professionalism, actual connection.
It's a tough adjustment for some, probably.
For sure. But hopefully it leads to a healthier, more sustainable, maybe more vibrant, creative scene in the end. Separating the wheat from the chaff, letting real talent shine.
And that great filtering, it leads right into what we've termed the mirror moment for creative industries.
Okay.
Will Stenner's whole announcement, it acts like this stark cultural mirror, reflecting back some really uncomfortable but crucial truths.
Like what?
First, the gap between artistic self-perception and market reality. So many artists think they're amazing, unique, ready, but the market, or a platform's experience like Will's, shows a different picture about their appeal or professionalism.
For the reality check.
Exactly. Second, it hammers home the failure of everyone's special messaging in professional contexts. Encouraging passion is fine, but in the real creative world, not everyone is equally ready or deserving of success just because they showed up, especially without the craft and professionalism.
Different rules apply.
Right. Third, this whole situation highlights the crucial need for honest feedback mechanisms in creative development. Will's bluntness. Painful, maybe, but it was unfiltered feedback. Many artists, maybe coddled by participation trophies, might never get that kind of reality check, which you absolutely need to grow.
You need honest critique.
And finally, it just powerfully repeats the undeniable importance of business sustainability and art support. Without a solid economic model, without financial practicality, even the best intentions to help artists will eventually fail, leaving everyone feeling let down.
It has to be built to last.
So this raises an important question for you listening. Whether you're an artist, aspiring creator, or just someone who loves art, what are the big takeaways here for you?
What does it all mean personally?
Yeah. It tells us pretty clearly that authenticity requires genuine experience, not manufactured drama. Will's trauma versus fake struggle narratives makes that point devastatingly clear. It reminds us craft mastery remains fundamental despite technological democratization. Just because the tools are easy doesn't mean skill and dedication are optional.
Can't bypass the work.
Nope. Professional behavior standards apply regardless of artistic medium. Entitlement, lying, ignoring rules, not excused by being creative.
Professionalism matters.
And maybe, most importantly, economic viability must be considered in creative career planning. Art for art's sake is wonderful, but art for a sustainable career. That needs business sense, market awareness, real value creation.
It's about being a whole professional. So as we kind of wrap up this pretty intense deep dive, we've walked through the dramatic and, sometimes disheartening evolution of Discover You Radio.
Driven by Will Stenner's incredibly blunt observations.
We explored his frustrations, didn't we? That entitlement epidemic, the manufactured stories, the harsh economics of trying to support artists in a broken system.
And it's hard not to feel that disappointment, especially hearing about the behaviors and particularly understanding the deep personal pain behind his critique of glorifying crime.
Absolutely. That was really affecting. But through it all, there's also this real clarity that comes from his brutal honesty, isn't there?
There is a difficult truth, but a clear one.
Discover You Radio has changed. And our discussions now, they're focused on exactly these kinds of huge cultural shifts and, yeah, deep diving into brands that want real connection and offer real value.
And for you listening, we really hope this encourages some, critical reflection. Think about the art you consume, the stories you engage with.
And the values you might be supporting, maybe without even realizing it, with your attention, your money.
The great filtering Will talked about, it's not just about platforms changing, it's about a necessary shift, maybe painful, towards valuing genuine craft, real authenticity, solid professionalism in all creative fields.
It's a call for us to be more discerning, maybe?
I think so. To really appreciate what goes into creating something meaningful, impactful, and sustainable.
So, as listeners, consumers, maybe creators ourselves, what role do we play in demanding substance over just surface? Authenticity over fake personas, real craft over entitlement in this, well, sometimes brutal creative landscape.
And how can we, all of us together, help foster an artistic world that truly values those three chords and a good hook, the real stuff? Talent, discipline, dedication, more than just chasing fame at any cost.
Something to think about. We'll leave you with that.